Well, I was gonna say, you land up obviously becoming the captain of the Flyers. You being an older guy coming into the league, like what was that like? And you took the captaincy from Bobby Clark as a second time being the captain of the Flyers. I mean, that's got to be something special.
It really was, Riley. It's something that I still treasure that experience. And it was a real when it happened, it was only my second year in the league.
Yeah.
And Daryl Sittler was supposed to be named captain of that team. That's the direction it was going in. And right before the season started, Sittler got traded, and we'd been in a luncheon downtown, and we thought Sittler would be named captain at that luncheon, and it didn't happen. And so it was maybe a Tuesday and Thursday the season was opening, and so we had taken the bus downtown. We all get back to the Coliseum, and we all went our separate ways. And then maybe an hour later, I got a call from a reporter that Sittler had been traded to Detroit, and that's all he knew at that point. And didn't know who was coming back, didn't know who else was in the deal, nothing. But he said, they traded Daryl Sittler. And I go, oh, wow. And then maybe another 2 hours pass, my phone rings, and I'm not sure whether it was Clarkey or Mike Keenan. One of those two called me and said, "Could you come back to the Coliseum?" And I thought, I'm in the trade, like
Oh, jeez,
I'm
yeah.
getting traded. And so I drove back to the Coliseum. I remember walking into Mike's office, and Clarkey was in there, and I sat down. Like, I had no idea why I'm in there, right? Like, talk about being called to the principal's office and not knowing what you did wrong, but
Right.
then
Yeah.
remembering everything you did do wrong, and
Yeah.
one of those things was like,
Exactly.
man, I'm sure I got away with that. But it was Mike that said, "Dave, you're going to be the next captain of the Philadelphia Flyers," and it was
Wow.
you
Wow.
just it was just a chill goes over you, and I was so careful, and I don't even know why or how I came up with this thought process, but I was always so careful to say I was following Bobby Clark, not replacing Bobby Clark. Like, no one was going to replace Bobby Clark.
Right.
Don't put that on me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I was following Bobby Clark, but then your immediate thought is, okay, well, I had a really good rookie year, but now what do they want different? What am I supposed to change? What do you do when you're captain? All those different things. And it was the group of guys around me. Like, we had some excellent leadership in that locker room, and Brad Marsh had been a captain already in his early 20s in Calgary. Mark Howe, Brad McCrimmon was unbelievable. The dear departed Brad McCrimmon is a leader.
Yeah.
And then a lot of quieter leaders, emerged. Timmy Kerr and Brian Propp in their own way. And then the young guys, Rick Tocchet was on that team, and he was going to grow into a force. But it was all the support that I had around me, and we didn't officially have leadership groups like they have now, or leadership committees, or whatever they call them. But we had a de facto one, and I got a ton of support from those guys. And you just remember when I'd be going in a meeting, and a couple of those guys would grab me and say, anything you want, we got your back. And you'd go in so confident in meetings because you said, that's some pretty tough guys behind me. And it was by committee, and a lot of it was how to figure out how to handle our madman coach at the time, Mike.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of it, and was trying to calm the waters and do what we did. And Mike was brilliant in the way he pushed and prodded and cajoled and intimidated, and all the different things he did to get out of you what he thought you had. And years later, we were at a wedding of some sort. I'm thinking exactly whose it was, but I played golf with Craig Berube and Scotty Mellenby, and I think Murray Craven was in the group. And begrudgingly, this was post-playing career, begrudgingly, each of them would admit that Mike was arguably their best coach, and also who got the most out of them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
As much
Chief.
as they,
Couldn't stand him.
oh,
Yeah.
just so challenged, so
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah. Chief actually said that to us as well. But that was where I was going to ask you next. Just like dealing with, you're the captain, so you're probably that guy that goes in to try to, I don't know,
Talk some sense. into
talk
this
some
guy.
sense into him, or not. I guess obviously you obviously would walk in there and say that, but try to mediate, I guess, or try to get him off this guy or what, I couldn't even imagine going in there to Uncle Mike, as I called him Uncle Mikey as a kid. That's what I called him. But was that your first time ever dealing with a coach like that, or he
It
was?
might have been the first and last.
Yeah.
He was unique. He had a method, and he believed in his methodology, and you couldn't argue with the success he had. And I thought there was a different way to do it, and that was a lot of the argument, and I could sense it. I considered myself to be the liaison between the players and the coaches. Like, my responsibility was to help get his message across, because he's the boss.
Right.
And so as the boss, I was going to help him in any way I could to get his message across. And effectively, we were a team, and we got into our share of battles for sure. But once again, the end result was we were a pretty good hockey club.
Yeah.
Yes. Very good.
How would you say your relationship with him was, considering, how he was and, in your position as a captain?
It was good. He wasn't always fair, Riley. I didn't think he was always fair. But he would justify fairness with result, right? And when you do something, I'd be like, Mike, you didn't have to do that. Like, you didn't. And I particularly when he was really hard on certain individuals, I professed there'd be a different way to do it. And I'll give you a good example. And I don't know how well you got to know this guy over the years, but another fellow that left us far too early, Ilka Sinisalo.
Oh yeah, real well.
Okay.
Yep.
Such a kind person, and such a unbelievably talented player. But guess what? If you yelled at Ilka, you weren't getting more out of him.
Yep.
You just weren't. So for me, my challenge would be to grab Ilka in the stick room and literally get right up in his face and say in this tone of voice, buddy, we really need you tonight. Like, we need you. Like, you're really good. We need you to be the difference maker tonight. To me, that was more effective with that personality than screaming and yelling at him and telling him, that it just didn't work.
Right.
If you didn't, he scored 39 goals in the National Hockey League. And I asked him one day, I said, you can get 50 goals. He goes, then they'd want 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Good point, right?
I mean, it was that good, So for me, it was, I thought, I understood what he was doing. I didn't always agree with what he was doing. And that made it hard for me, because I'd have to go into the guys and say, okay, I'd try and soften it or change the angle or change the delivery a little bit. Different day and age.
Yeah,
Totally
right.
different day and age with players.
Yeah, you'll never see that again, right? It's like,
I don't think so, Riley.
So much communication now.
I don't. You have to communicate. You absolutely have to. EJ McGuire was a big part of Mike Keenan's success, because he was the good cop to Mike's bad cop. And you need, the staffs are much bigger now. They weren't big staffs. Certainly the staffs, management and coaches, are much bigger now. And, you have to, we found each other probably to vent with and talk to, whereas now there's probably people available to do that.